I've been in the kitchen, whipping. I've been cheffin', mix it with my left hand. Water whipping and I'm stirring. Y'all want beef and I'ma serve it. Water whipping and I'm stirring. Y'all want beef and I'ma serve it. I stir it. I hit the pot with a spatula. I mix it, I whip it so good you would think I'm a natural.
Welcome to Cheffin with Sean. We hope that you enjoyed our previous episode of How to Do a Thanksgiving Turkey. My name's Sean Crudo and this is Jack.
Hello.
This month we're going to be showing you how to do some sugar cookies. Now we've got our recipe here to my left, and then we've got a few of the ingredients already measured out. Since I don't have a stand mixer with me, I've decided to start mixing it by hand, and that's where we've pretty much started. So we've got butter and we've got sugar, and we've got it to where it's nice and evenly mixed together, to where it's gonna feel a little bit grainy in the hands, but you can't really tell the butter from the sugar apart. At this point, we're gonna go by our recipe right here. We're going to start adding in the eggs and then the vanilla. With the eggs, you want to try and do one or two at a time. If you're doing a small batch, definitely one. If you're doing a really big batch, you can do it two at a time. But you want to make sure that each egg gets completely mixed in. Again, this is a lot faster if you've got a stand mixer at home in your kitchen. I wouldn't use a wire whip with your stand mixer. I would use either a paddle or a dough hook. It's going to be really runny at first until we start adding in our flour, but we just really want to make sure that we're incorporating the egg into the mixture as much as possible. Now, since doing this by hand is going to be a bit of a slower project, I'm actually at the same time going to start instructing Jack on how to start rolling out some dough. So what I've done is, after we mix all these ingredients together, the dough needs to sit for 30 minutes. In order to not have to wait on that, I made some dough already. So what Jack has over here is some dough that I've already pre-mixed and it's been rested. So Jack, if you actually want to move that sheet pan off to the left-hand side, and you've got a big bowl of flour over there, just take some of that flour and start sprinkling it over your workstation. There you go. You want to make sure the area is big enough for the entire piece of dough. Excellent. Then you're going to put your dough on top of that flour, and then also flip it over once. So now you got a little bit of flour on both sides, and you're going to use your roller to start rolling it out flat. We're looking for about a 1/4 of an inch or so, because the cookie cutters that we have today are going to be some Christmas trees and some gingerbread men. They've got some little inner parts that you kind of need a taller cookie. So when rolling, you want to start off from the outside or from the inside to the outside. My apologies. So start off on the inside and then roll out. And then as one area gets flattened, flip the dough and you can start rolling on a different area. Give my gloves a quick change here. Now back over here to the dough. At the point we've got the eggs now mixed in, we're going to start adding a little bit of vanilla. I've got some Madagascar vanilla here. So we got that in there. We just did a little 1/2 teaspoon. And now we're going to add some salt. Just a little bit of salt. This particular recipe, which we are making for about 25 cookies, we'll make, let's see here, about a 3/8 teaspoon of salt. So just a little sprinkle. We're also going to add in our baking soda, which again is another 3/8 teaspoon. And then we're going to start adding our flour. Now, in order to help out with lumps, especially since we're doing this by hand, we're going to sift the flour in there to get nice, even flour. How are you looking over there, Jack?
It's flattening out.
Excellent. All right, so I've got myself this nice mesh sifter here, and I've got my flour already measured out. And all we're going to do is start sifting it into our dough. Now, if you're doing a large batch of dough, I suggest doing this in portions, but since we're just doing a little batch of 25, which 25 for me is very small, we're gonna do the whole bit of flour at the same time. Now, this is gonna be a fairly dry dough, but as you incorporate the butter into it a bit more and after it rests, it starts to moisten out a little bit and you get this product of what you see Jack here working on. You also don't want to make sure that you don't overmix. So if you're using a stand mixer, make sure it's on a low speed. Again, using a paddle or a dough hook so that way you don't overmix everything. You can get some tough cookies if you overmix your dough. I'm not really worried about overmixing it right now with my hands because it's going to take a lot to do that. When doing it by hand, essentially you're just really wanting to make sure that you're getting into the dough as much as possible, working it. Think of that nice deep tissue massage that you want someone else to give you. And as you can see, the butter is starting to already incorporate a bit more. So right now it's still pretty flaky, but if given a little bit more time, it's going to become less and less so. And if you got a bunch of straggling bits of dough, I like to make a little pocket and then you can close it in there and then just start working the dough ball. All right. So Jack, give your dough a 90-degree turn. And then start rolling out just like you were. And that's going to help smooth out all those little lump areas. All right, so at this point, we've got a nice dough ball. You want it to rest about 30 minutes cooling down. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna wrap it up in plastic, put it in your fridge and leave it alone for 30 minutes. After that, you're gonna be ready to roll. All right, how you doing, Jack?
I think it's going well. It started to crack.
That's okay. So what you can do in case of cracking is you can go ahead and either one, you can fold over the dough, but since we're just doing a really small batch, we're just gonna start working half the dough and then we can come back to the other half later on. So if you don't mind, can I see this real quick?
Yes.
So since we're just gonna, for the sake of moving forward, we'll move this off to the side. And now we've got a nice dough. You've actually just about got it there. I'm gonna give a little bit more of a roll here, just to kind of get some flatten out. And then our cookie cutters. So you can do a different depth of cookie cutter when you're working on it, but since this one has a bit of an indent for a nice little design, that's why we wanted it that 1/4 inch. And there we have our first cookie. Now from here, we're gonna pop this into, on a parchment lined sheet pan, pop it into an oven at 350 degrees for a convection oven. And it's gonna go for about 6 to 8 minutes. After that, you just want it really golden brown. This is also the time if you ever wanna do any like grained sugar or anything on top of it, you can do that as well. Or you can leave it plain and design it later on. We hope you enjoy these cookies and that you have a great Christmas and holiday. Happy New Year. All the other holidays. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy holidays to
Hey, keep that heat on me. I be in the kitchen, 350 degrees, homie. Hey, all these haters salty, I'm too seasoned, homie. Dripping down, I got cheese on me. Yeah, Lefty make sure that we straight. I just serving you up a plate. Lefty make sure